You're strong.
I know.
It's okay. I've got you now.
Just like in the movies.
Welcome to SuperWonder Legacy. I'm Jared. I'm here with Brit. What's up, Brit?
Hello, hello.
And oh boy, has it been an interesting week for SuperWonder fans, or no, for Wonder Woman fans specifically. More on that later. But so what we're talking about this week is we're talking about one of the justifications that we hear a lot from detractors, if you will, is that Superman and Wonder Woman need to be with Lois and Steve because Lois and Steve ground them. So Britt and I thought, I know. That's a load of sugar honey iced tea if ever I saw one. So we're like, you know what? Let's discuss this because this is an argument that is made so often that it deserves its own episode. So let us begin. So Britt, start us off.
All right. So we all know who Superman and Wonder Woman is. You know, we know that the purpose, which is Superman being created by two Jewish men who, it was a story of immigration, you know, an immigrant trying to find his way. And what's so disrespectful is how far gone or far off Superman has, you know, left his purpose because of the American poster boy image they want him to have.
Mm-hmm.
And in no way should the American poster boy, that image shouldn't be a negative, but the way it's presented gives you that very xenophobic, you know, racist. It just feels that way. And we have to bring Superman back to his roots. You know, that was the attempt in New 52, but we see look how he was rejected because he was so quote unquote different. And that is, the fans are so, I guess I can say brainwashed or, you know,
convinced. Now, real quick, I want to say one thing. By grounded, Superman can exist in a grounded world, like in the New 52 or the Snyderverse. By grounded, we're not talking about that. We're talking about the grounded argument that if he's not with like Lois, he eventually turns into Injustice Superman.
Exactly. But so when he was with Diana in New 52 and how he tried to truly balance, you know, his Kryptonian roots and being, you know, adopted by the Kents. They called him a battling alien. They called him an alien in a derogatory sense. And it was kind of like, why, if he is accepting who he is and trying to, you know, fully embrace himself, why is he just labeled as an alien? Why is it that in order for him to be quote unquote human, that he has to reject that side of him? You know? And then with Diana, she is a character that's full of life. She is a character that represents, you know, the every women who wants equality, who fights for it, who wants that respect, who just want to be free. And she's very much that free spirit. And she's very cultured. She loves her culture. She loves love in the right way, you know. And she is that inspiration to, you know, whatever your belief is, whatever the love is, again, in the right way, you can express that and you can have that confidence within yourself. She brings that confidence and that joy to you. And she's labeled as a goddess, just a goddess without humanity, or trying to take Clark away from his humanity. But what defines humanity? And honestly, a dog, Crypto, has more humanity than, some of the characters written, and they are supposed to be mortal beings. That what defines humanity is that you are a person who has respect, that you will help people, that you have feelings, you aren't robotic, and sometimes with that emphasizing on humanity, Clark and Diana are written robotic, as in they can't move without Lois and Steve. And
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
right. So with their who they are as an immigrant and a refugee is already giving them that sense of being relatable, and that gives them their humanity because we see their struggle of, again, trying to find their comfort, their own comfort, not anyone else's. And even the tweet thread that I did, explaining that. And so many of the detractors, when I simplified it and I said, no, Clark and Diana's, being together is looked upon as an immigrant and a refugee. And it was kind of like a light bulb went off. And it was like, oh, well, if it was explained like that, then we will accept it. And I'm kind of like, no, if you would read the content, it's right there in your face to
Hmm.
know that this is what their story is about.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's not that like it doesn't require that deep of an understanding. But even on that, with the refugee and immigrant roots, because again, Clark comes from a planet that blew up, and Diana just emigrated from her country to like man's world, if you will. So they both understand that sort of outsidery feel.
Right. And what is what's also so, like, with their story together and how complex it is, again, referring back to my tweet thread, is Clark is a child refugee. So he's trying to, as an adult, learn who he is, learn his heritage and everything, and trying to accept it. And he's also conditioned to hide himself. Diana, as a young adult, she had that out luxury, I would say, to truly know who she is and be able to, she was taught, to celebrate who she is and to not be, let anyone condition her to reject herself, or that she has to be this way in order to be accepted.
Mhm. So moving on, then what we have here is their relatability and humanity, and that's the thing. It's like Clark comes from a farm. That's it. He grew up on a farm. In fact, what's kind of interesting is, again, I reference this scene a lot, but in one of the Superman Wonder Woman issues in Volume 1, Batman is talking to Superman, and he goes, "Look, dude, there's a reason why I've always felt comfortable working with you, despite your godlike powers and how you could probably take out the Earth if you wanted." And he basically goes, because as far as you knew to a certain point, all you were just a dude that, excuse me, that happened to have like fantastical powers. You will always see humanity as your home team because you were raised human. And even the same thing to a degree with Diana, because here's the thing: when people say that Clark should be with an Earth woman, I'm like, okay, two things. Technically, Diana is an Earth woman because she's from Earth, but two, if you take the clay origin into account, she is literally an Earth woman.
Exactly.
Like,
That is
you
so
can't
funny.
get more Earth woman than being made by clay.
And the fact is, when I forgot what issue it was, but Maxima, when she referred to Diana, Maxima, she was already pretty salty about Clark giving Diana attention. And she called Diana an Earth woman. Like, she belittled Diana being from Earth. So if you go back to, and I believe that was in the 80s. So if you go back to that and you see how Diana has been referred to as an Earth woman for so long, but it just so happens that now she isn't an Earth woman because she's with Clark. It's kind of like, you know, you see the projection and the double standards, the hypocrisy, and all of that, and just the twisting of information and misconstruing things just to hate.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is. And honestly, the disrespect of these characters, it's not from obviously us. It's
Mm-hmm.
always the detractors that ironically throw Clark and Diana under the bus.
Yeah, exactly. Or it's like when like I saw someone say that because Lois has powers now, Clark can give her the world of cardboard speech.
Yeah, the well, the cardboard speech in a very um
In a very erotic context.
adulty way. Yeah. And that honestly goes into a very, it's more of the SA kind of way. It's not very, it's not romantic. It's very aggressive, and in a way that women will be very disgusted by it, as I am, and very uh, uncomfortable with that.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, for detractors to say about Clark and Diana being eugenics and all that kind of things, but now that Lois has powers, you accept that and you say, oh, they're going to have another kid to replace John or something like that. Or, yeah, the very misogynistic and sexist remarks on a more mature kind of situation. Um, and all of that. But yet, if it's Clark and Diana being actually, intimate in a sense of respect, then there's a problem. That again, that goes within that hypocrisy. And with this, they are just the farm boy and the island girl. Clark, he is still rooted in such an earthy way, and Diana is too. And again, we see that in the pages. If you actually read the content, you know, the images that are on this presentation right here shows you that they are in their element. Clark and how they connect, because even though I always say that the only difference between, between them is basically the climate, because Clark is in, dry, very, um, how would you describe Kansas? It's
It's well, I wouldn't know because I've never actually lived in it. I guess rural. I guess maybe
yeah, I would say the climate is dry, is very well. I guess you could think of like the setting of Wizard of Oz,
a little
of
bit.
how that looked. But Diana, she's the tropics, tropical with a beach and the sand and and things like that. But they are still surrounded by the pureness of nature.
Mm-hmm.
Clark with, if they had chickens and pigs and on the Kent farm, horses, goats, or just things like that, cows. Diana, the same thing, a little bit, sheep, deer, um, sheep. They've had
And kangaroos.
kangaroos. They've had horses. Um, I believe. Well, Themyscira is, of course, mythical still, so they will have like even lions I've seen in the story before. But it's still that they are very much ingrained in nature. And that, again, also exemplifies their humanity and how they grew up. So no, they still, where in this do they need Lois and Steve when they have grown up in such a already grounded, you know, um, world as they grew up? Despite the mascara being mythical, it's still very much a place where women, learned the confidence. They still learned as anyone else. It's kind of like, I think of it as going, to an all-girl school.
Hmm.
And
It's good. They kind of treated it like that at some point with like Kara.
yeah, and it's like they taught the women how to fight. Of course, you have training like that, but you still learn history, literature. Diana, of course, learned music and everything like that. Learned how to sculpt, arts and everything like that. So there's really no difference. The only difference is that they were isolated. There were no men, and that they are of a different culture. But America is supposed to be a blend of different cultures anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's why it's called a frickin' melting pot. That's kind of what that is, and that's that's the other like similarity between her and Superman is that they both embrace like being all that you are and contributing to this one common cause. That's why like the Justice League is also such a powerful concept and like a good symbol of the melting pot of America, because like you have all these different people from all these different walks of life that come together for the cause of justice and contribute what makes them unique. There are certain talents and abilities to the fulfillment of justice.
Yeah.
And so then we get to their inspirational purpose.
So, as we know, again, Clark is supposed to be the champion of the oppressed. He is supposed to be this this everyday man. No, that doesn't mean make him a bumbling idiot galoot. That that does not mean that. It just means that he, again, as an immigrant or a refugee, he is a Moses allegory. And if you know the story of Moses, he um, gathered his people into taking them, uh, you know, for the betterment and to bring in well, a better tomorrow, you know.
Mhm.
Um, but again, a lot of people have taken that away from Superman. He isn't the man of tomorrow anymore. He isn't the champion of the oppressed. The only story I would give is War World, which uh, they want, some people criticize it and say that Superman is falling into like the white savior type role. But that is only, to me, is when kind of like how they have him so preachy, like in Rebirth, and have him very privileged,
Mhm.
so he it's kind of like he doesn't have that struggle and that understanding of people, and he feels like he can um he's saving people, but at the same time you get that sense of some writers wanting Superman to be like worshipped, and that's how we end up with space Jesus too, and that's the wrong way to go. But if you have a Superman who struggles, who actually, you know goes down and be basically in the trenches with the people, like in War World, then you wouldn't have that feeling of a white savior. You would have that understanding that he too is a refugee. He is an outsider, so he understands what, his people um are going through and how he can help them. And it's the same way as Diana. Diana, even though she came from a secluded world, her purpose is to help women and children. She is ultimately an educator to understanding different cultures, because so still in present day of 2024 or 2025, there's still this sense of segregation. There's still this sense of people disrespecting other people's cultures and not trying to understand it. So you have this division of people. Women are still struggling for respect, still struggling to um, make a difference, and that shouldn't be in this time. So what we need are even stories that really exemplify this. And yes, we will talk about this later, but what you've done, Jared, with this campaign to help Wonder Woman, you know, that
Oh
is what this
boy.
is.
So we're gonna allude to it right now. I did a thing, and it blew the F up. Let me put it to you that way. So we'll talk about that in a bit, because I gave it its own slide, because this deserves its own slide for what Brit and Jid and I did, because oh my freaking god.
Yes.
So continue. But yeah, see, the thing about this is, like, even in Snyder's Man of Steel, one of the things that, like, Jor-El tells Clark is, like, yeah, they're going to stumble, they're going to fall, they're going to fail, but ultimately you can be the bridge between our two peoples. They will join you in the sun.
Right. Right. Even throughout all the struggles, you still learn. You still, but Clark and Diana are still very humbled, but they are the guides to everything. Diana, like I said, as the educator, as the ambassador, she is to teach people how to basically act right and have common sense, have respect for other people. Clark, he is to be that inspiration as a man of power and not take it for granted or not take advantage of it, to truly show, that men are supposed to respect women too as an equal, and, protect the younger generation, and, and that strength that people need to move forward.
Mm-hmm.
That is essentially, again, who these characters are, and we've veered away from it. Now we have a Superman who, honestly, with Rebirth, we don't really have a definitive, like, outlook on neither one of these characters,
Mm-hmm.
because they're so focused on their supporting, well, I wouldn't even say supporting cast, because it's really non-existent, but it's just having them in this bubble of
Well,
they're
Britt, remember,
separate.
according to Tom King, the problem with Wonder Woman runs, they focus too much on her rogues and her romance interests.
Which is kind of ironic, since his run is exactly that.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
basically, not only that, but he's like doubling down on that.
By the way, Britt, I have never hated Steve Trevor more than I did because of his run.
Oh yeah, I know. I
Like,
mean,
I have never seen so much Steve hate since after he started to make us like Steve. I'm like, aha, you just made us hate him even more, dude.
we've never liked Steve because we know eh, his character, and just the sourness, I would say, from Rebirth, and
But
how
he's getting to Lois Lane levels of hatred from me.
for oh, oh my god. Well, okay, so now I'm very curious of how you would rank Lois,
Oh, it's still Lois
Tresher.
as my number one hated character.
Okay, so
Yeah, I'm
Tresher.
just saying is that Steve is like Steve's at number two, but he's on the like threshold of passing over into sharing the number one spot with Lois. To the
He's even
point to the point where if he ever becomes one, the one spot will just have the word Stois on it.
wow.
I just invented a new ship name.
Yeah, you did.
Stoas.
You did.
So far on this show, I've invented Maxibat and Stoas. I am a frickin' genius.
Oh my God. That is funny.
Write the characters well. I won't have to come up with these names for them, DC and Tom King. But we all know, and we'll talk about this later, we are beyond salvaging Tom King as a Wonder Woman writer, as we know.
Well, now we understand what Batman fans felt, with him being on that run. And
yeah, honestly, now I'm like, oh God, now I'm never even gonna say I liked his Batman run because of that, because it's more evident. Because here's the thing, I think I tolerated it more because I like Batman. He's my third favorite superhero, but I'm not as attached to him as I am with Superman and or Wonder Woman, obviously, because I have this show.
Right. I mean, with reading through it, or being within the time of that run, honestly, it was very glossed over the problems with the shipping. And I think that is what Tom King, a lot of his work, it uses romance as a crutch. And when you have that, when you have the shippers, so blinded by that everything else is disregarded. But to me, and especially with us writing too and caring for these characters, if you are so focused on the romance and you have everything around them just destructive, it makes them unlikable.
Oh, did you know that in one issue, that when he was promoting a Batcat issue, legit, the way he promoted it is he said, people F in this issue.
See, no, no.
That's what made me quit Creature Commandos. More on that later. But you see, here's the thing. Because I've read good stuff by King, hence the Mr. Miracle book. But the problem is, see, the King is one of those guys where, here's the thing. And I know we're talking about this now, but screw it, we'll do it now. If this were an Elseworlds Black Label Wonder Woman book, it would be less frustrating. Because it's like, okay, it's like out of continuity, we don't have to regard it. But that's why we did what we did yesterday, because it's an in-continuity book. This is going to affect Wonder Woman. So the way we see it, you took a concept that could have worked, and you Tom King'd it. That's what you did. You Tom King'd it.
Yeah, and also the reason for his run, that adds to it.
Yeah, it's like the reason why, and I said this because on Twitter, someone asked, why do people not like Trinity? I said her fundamental reason for existing is flawed, because when you say, I wanted to give Wonder Woman a daughter because Batman and Superman have kids, I'm like, that does two things. Number one, it doesn't take into account what having a daughter would add to Diana's character herself. And two, it makes her a derivative character of Batman and Superman, which I'm sorry, Wonder Woman shouldn't be.
I mean, Trinity's name is Trinity, or Lizzie Trinity. That, if you look up Trinity DC Comics, only Wonder Woman, Superman, and Batman will come up.
And you know what's interesting? I said one more thing. So I said, number two, the role that Trinity is essentially supposed to be playing has already been played, or can be better played if you actually use one of the Wonder Girls. The reason why you won't do that is because then King won't get royalties.
Exactly. But the thing is, no one wants, like,
literally no one wants Trinity. That was the thing that my experience on okay, I'm sorry. On Saturday, I'm a little thrown off because we're recording this on Sunday. But that's what my experience on Saturday has showed me. I did not see anyone defending Trinity, because I have two hashtags, so we'll talk about this later. Two of them. Literally 0 people defended Trinity.
Exactly. I mean, her purpose And the fact that he has the interviews, and like the very first interview, he basically was like,
You know,
I
Wonder Woman's like Wolverine.
well, that one, but also he went to George Perez's funeral, and
Mm-hmm.
George had a I guess goodbye video,
Mm-hmm.
and he was talking about his Wonder Woman run, and and everything. And so King took that as a challenge for himself.
So I'm like,
You
what
know,
a and well, I knew Kim was a narcissist when he was on my buddy Robert's channel, and he started bragging about his vast knowledge of comics. I'm like, shut up, bro. You don't know anything about comics. If you did, half your characters would not be depressed all the time.
exactly. So he said that he took that as a challenge, like George Perez was challenging him. And I'm kind of like, okay, you're very egotistical and basically acting deranged. But yeah, he took that as, and it feels like he wanted to say, well, I can write Wonder Woman better, or I can do a better run, and like having this
Oh no.
one-sided, literal one-sided beef with George Perez, and again, it's very disrespectful. And then you say that, well, he was um with Trinity's origin and how Grant Morrison did Damien. He basically, again, referring to another character and another writer for the origin of a legacy kid and how he wanted to do something better. But yet you fall not even short. I don't even know what to call this, but you have just fell flat on your face and got stomped by an elephant or something, because the way he is so um with confidence thought that making Trinity um the way, her origin of
When
Steve
oh, and by
having
the
to
way,
die.
Brit, I discovered. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I discovered
Yep.
something egregious. So remember when? So King said that like the first 20 issues from the Sovereign's perspective, and I thought that he could like retcon out a lot of the other stuff, like the punching her mother in the face. The problem is that's not from Sovereign's perspective.
Exactly.
And then it gets worse. Not only does Diana punch Wonder Woman in Diana punch her mother, but Trinity also punches Diana. So
Exactly.
I'm like, if you want me to like this character, having her punch Diana in the face is not the way to get me to like her.
Right. So you have King, and with him saying that, her origin is basically, I don't like that a lot of these writers are trying to say that Diana is a rebel, or trying to rebel against Hippolyta. That is not her purpose, and that is not what she's trying to do. First of all, the Amazons aren't going to disown Diana or anything like that because she wants to go to man's world. They not, or banish her. No,
Mm-hmm.
that's not what that is. They want her, being that she is the only child of the island, the youngest, and the Amazons are her aunts or her second mothers. And yes, they are her aunts or the second mothers. They are not to be shipped with Diana. They want her protected. And they've, out of the centuries that they have, dealt with man's world, or dealt with the gods, they want her protected, and they don't want her to deal with the trauma that they've dealt with. However, Diana is that pure Amazon, that pure soul, and their champion, as to why it was important for her origin as being of clay, because I'm sure everyone knows her origin of Perez, that her and Hippolyta's souls were reincarnated of a mother. I think it was the caveman time. She was abused and killed by her husband and her unborn child.
Mm-hmm.
So, Hippolyta felt that she longed for a child, which was essentially her unborn, being reincarnated. And that's who Diana was. And not only that, but Diana is she is basically um the symbol of the Amazons and how they've created this champion for them. And so for Tom King to take that, how in the to take that origin and put a man within it, and make it seem like Diana's love is only for Steve as to why she created Trinity, that totally just spits in the face of her origin. And also, again, he's not talking about Diana as a character. He says this, oh, I'm going to make her awesome, or going to show how amazing she is, but he doesn't. First of all, she's been sitting, you know, as a stay-at-home mom for apparently months. So if Steve had died and you still have Amazons in prison, or they have, been killed or are deceased, what is Diana doing? Like, her purpose of the story, and not only that, but she's banned from America or the US. So you have your Amazon sisters like just imprisoned for months. You like where you have not made a plan to um help them at all.
And we'll talk about that in a second. I don't get too far in the weeds yet. So then, all right, so back to grounding. We get to their connection to humanity, which they already have because, all right, on Clark's side. Okay, so Brit, who raised Clark?
The Kents.
And what species are the Kents?
Human, mortal.
You don't say! So you're telling me Clark was already raised by humans?
Right. But no, Jared, he needs a woman to basically coddle him, to raise him as his big grown age of, I don't know, 32 or something. Yeah, he needs Lois to handhold him, to tell him when to go save the world or not to. He would rather not.
Or Brit, so what were two people that were instrumental in Diana when she came to man's world?
Julia and Vanessa.
And what species are they?
They are human.
I'm sorry, I have to spell this out for people.
Exactly.
So they're human. Okay, and would you say they grounded Diana?
Yes.
Would you say the Kents grounded Clark?
Yes.
So you're telling me that Lois and Steve do not and have never grounded Diana and Clark?
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah. And also, neither one of them are the hearts of the story either. Because, even if they are like I wouldn't even say the first, but the supporting cast of, that story, that Action Comics or Sensation Comics, they still were in that damsel manzel in distress role.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how that only shows Clark and Diana as the heroes or whatever, but that still doesn't show that they are essential to what makes them the hero that they are. They save people all day long. You don't have to be romantically linked just to save someone, and especially with Diana too, her love for Clark too, their love for life in anyone, especially again, they are supposed to emphasize being inspirations for children. How did they turn into um, characters that are just depended on, or it is so um, emphasized on their, romantic interests? Like, where did that come from? And it feels like, well, with Superman, it came from the 90s, with the marriage, trying to make it work and everything like that, and trying to justify Lois's role. And then with Diana, it really didn't start until DCEU, the 2017 movie, I would say.
Mm.
However, with the fact that no one really cares for Steve like that, it's very easy to, you know, um, take that away. But you still have, like, writers um, within Rebirth or Tom King who keep uh, wanting to emphasize Steve.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny. Or it's like when he was on my friend's show and he mentioned about how like Diana and Steve are in the middle of their relationship. So I had two responses to that. Number one, then were they broken up for like 5 years? And second off, why is he dead then?
Right.
Like, it seems like what Tom King says and what he writes are two entirely different things.
Different things. It very much so.
I'm like, what is going on here?
How can you say that Diana and Steve are in the middle, but yet you were going to marry off Batcat? Like, aren't they in the middle?
Mm-hmm.
But
that's the thing. He flipped those two because you could say that like Clark and Lois are at the end, and I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. But when you go to, if anything, Bruce and Selena are in the middle because Bruce and Selena have been together or been in love or been around each other's orbit since like the inception of Catwoman.
yes.
So I don't know what the hell you're talking about, bro.
Yeah. Now you have really put it into perspective, because I was trying to basically get to that, and with my own thoughts of Tom King, I'm like, it's just so off that everything that he says on the interview, some of the things is kind of like, it sounds right that he is saying the right things, but then it's some things that's so off, and what he explains within his interviews, again, is the total opposite of what's written. Or
there's a simple explanation for that, Brit. It's called lying. That's what it's called. It's literally called lying.
Yes.
That's it. He is 100% lying. I know that because otherwise, whenever he's caught in stuff, he immediately doubles down on it. Because, he says the stuff that a Wonder Woman fan wants to hear. And then he does literally the complete opposite of it in the purpose of his screwed up story.
Yeah, and it's at the expense of Diana's character.
Yeah, exactly. Because at this point, because here's the thing, Brit. Actually, hilarious thing. This run has been going on for about the time as we've done this show, correct?
Right.
And Brit, all right. How, for sure, I was willing to give this man a chance, correct?
Yes, you were.
And I was like, because I knew, okay, when he actually applies himself, okay, he's good. He can do it. Like Mr. Miracle. I was blinded by my past experiences. I also read like Sheriff of Babylon. So I've read good books by him. So the first couple of issues of Wonder Woman were okay, not bad. Not bad at all. Then the Trinity special happens. And oh God. The minute I see Wonder Woman punching her mother in the face and Trinity doing the same, I'm like, okay, now I'm starting to think. What broke me was the BS. She's captured, has that dream of being a 1950s housewife. Then the next issue, I ate my rats. And remember when we were chasing terrorists and stopped to make out? We got them eventually. It's even worse when because I used some of those images on Twitter, and then I looked at it, and then Steve goes, "Well, we got them eventually," and I'm like, "You tracked terrorists and got them on your own time?"
Exactly.
That is 100% not Diana. That no version of, not even Injustice Wonder Woman does that. That's how you know it's bad. It's to the point, by the way, folks, that Brit and I have labeled this Wonder Woman Unwonderful Woman. That's her new name.
Yes, because and that really,
Literally, no version of Diana would punch her mother in the face.
yeah, she wouldn't hesitate, and that goes back again to how can you talk about Clark and Diana's relationship when in the book, if people will actually read it, Diana says if they the world comes first. And if they stop doing
We will
that,
have that image up there in a moment, ladies and gentlemen.
if they don't, if they forget that, then they stop. And that was the thing, that Diana and Clark become so selfish. And even with Clark, with Lois, in that Justice League Aquaman crossover, The Drowned, when Clark let thousands drown to save Lois and take her all the way to the fortress. Yeah. Um that really showed his priorities, because one person's life, you know, and especially when it's not just thousands of adults, it's
Women and
also,
children.
yeah, it's that is what you have to think of. And some people, especially close fans, would think that's romantic. It's not, because that is bordering that Superman will turn into injustice. He will let a, a any individual, die just to save Lois. And that is a no. As a hero, you're supposed to be able to make sacrifices, even if it's very difficult of a loved one or something. You are supposed to make that sacrifice. And then with Wonder Woman, I would say, like now, Tom King's uh, run of having her crying in a
Actually, hang
cave.
on. By the way, here is that image. I'm going to read, allow me to read the dialogue.
Right.
So, will you try to find him? Diana, no, Lois. If he needs me, he'll call me. The world always comes first. Lois, is that like a deal you made? Diana, we've never had to say it out loud, but we know. I think the moment that stops, so do we.
Right. And that unspoken understanding that they know, they understand and know their purpose.
Yeah. They are superheroes first. That's the thing.
Right. And
well, actually, one more thing, Brett. This goes back. There was an earlier issue, Superman Wonder Woman, when Clark goes, do you think we were better at being superheroes before we were together? And Diana thinks, Clark, if I really thought that, we would not be together.
Right. And he also says, like, he's worried about protecting her. And I think that that's also an issue that people try to make, writers. And I sent you that meme earlier from Barnes' Superman, when he said that Diana is out of his league. And so the edit was like, well, I'm sorry that you don't have to save me, and and you can't lie to me, for us to be together. And that's true. That Clark and Diana's relationship is built on trust. And again, pushing both of them to be equals. Diana doesn't need saving. She doesn't need to be. She doesn't need to coddle Clark. It's about them being individuals coming together and bridging the world together for the betterment. That is
exactly
what they are.
And you know what it is,
And,
Brett? I think The reason why these old timey writers don't like Super Wonder, you know what it is? It's laziness because they
It
like
is.
to write it the way that they're familiar and they don't want to be bothered to have to learn a new way to write them. That's why like they tried to write new 52 Superman as like post-crisis Superman. They didn't like the suit. They didn't like this because it challenged the way that they remembered the characters.
Right. And, again, Clark and Diana should be just the epitome of world building, world bridging, and, again, being that inspiration. But these iterations that they are now are not at all. Again, you have Superman fans who are more concerned of Lois having powers, of doing, of having these male based fantasies that are very uncomfortable for women. Um, you have Wonder Woman who has not done anything for herself, or her Amazon sisters in her own book. And not even the main focus. It's a chimp that
Yeah, I
was
know.
the main focus for
And
last issue.
yeah. So the other thing, and I'll say this one more thing before we move on to our next point is that's the other part that lost me on this run. It's because King keeps bringing characters that he's been very obvious about that he'd rather write. And I'm like, dude, if you'd rather write these characters other than Wonder Woman, then just leave the freaking book and go write a Detective Chimp book. Go write a Steve Trevor book. You can't tell me DC won't let you. If you're this big writer at DC that you keep trying to represent yourself as, you're an Eisner-winning writer. You could tell DC practically whatever they want, and they will do it for you. Tell them I'd rather write this, and then they will give it to you.
Right. But at the same time, DC, he was hired because of Supergirl. And the thing is,
Well,
his
hang
Supergirl,
on. No, he was hired because his mom worked at WB. Let's be clear on that.
well, that. But, okay, I would say it was more pushed for him to take on Wonder Woman after the Supergirl, his book was announced to have an movie adaptation.
Which is hilarious because until it was announced to be a movie, that book is in the dollar bin, ladies and gentlemen.
Exactly. Yeah, it was. Um, a, Honestly, a lot of King's books are low sellers. You know,
Yeah, because no one likes to read stories about where every superhero is depressed.
yes, and very out of character. Um, but back to this. So the whole thing of how Clark and Diana connects, they are the bridges. As I said, of you have Kryptonian, which is alien out um in space beyond the stars, and then you have Clark's connection to the mortal world with the Kents, and then you have Diana with the gods, the mythical, and the Amazons, and then the mortal world. I honestly, I just thought of that Diana is connected to three different worlds, which is kind of, you know, again, how she is more cultured. But
Oh man, she's even more connected to this world than Clark is.
yes, um, so with combining all of that and how Clark and Diana understands that they are outsiders to, you know, the only one thing that I will give King, the only one thing was from that Wonder Woman special. But at the same time, I mean, I think he got that from pretty much the New 52 uh
Well, we know
dialogue.
King likes to legit rip off stuff, so we all
Yeah.
know that.
But on the panel of the Wonder Woman special, Diana says, we're both strangers here. It's not our world, Clark, but it's new and it's young and it's beautiful. this is what we're fighting so hard to
Right
save.
there.
That is a very, very in character moment for Diana, a very powerful, uh, you know, not speech, it's not so much speech, but,
Statement.
wording, statement. Um, and the only thing that King has gotten right for Diana, but understanding their relationship is that they are both outsiders to the worlds that they are connected to. Whether Clark with Krypton because he doesn't truly know it, being that he was a child refugee, but he's learning of it, and he has a purpose to keep Krypton alive in a more positive way than how it self-destructed. The Kents, the values that they instilled in him to have that upbringing as a mortal, but to understand how he had to hide who he is. So he understands that feeling, that every child has that's different, whether it is by skin color or maybe a shortcoming of a ability or something like that. Children have that, have experienced that of feeling like they don't belong, and wanting to fit in within the crowd at school or something like that. But you have to understand and accept, that you need to stand out and don't um, be so um, just that striving to fit in, that will take a toll on a person, and you actually will limit yourself and you won't be your full self. Then Diana, she doesn't care for the label of being a goddess. She doesn't care to be on Mount Olympus. She barely tolerates the gods and their shenanigans or whatever like that. But she understands her um, connection to them in that divine way. Then with the Amazons, her being the youngest, her and her origin of the clay, I would say that if written right, none of the Amazons will treat Diana any differently, but she still will have that feeling only because of because of the expectations set upon her. Especially with her being royalty, the princess, and the youngest, you know. And then the mortal world. She is an adult immigrant that is learning, um, of not only American culture, but the whole world, because she wants to be that traveler. Okay, so again, how I've said that Clark, he is to put combine his Kryptonian roots and being raised in Kansas. Uh, I will give. I don't want to give these problematic writers any type of credit. I really don't. But
That's the trouble. That's the trouble, right, Brit?
it's kind, it's kind of like they've done just that one thing to give them, I would say, a point one. It's not a whole point. It's more of like just that little dot of credit. Of how Tomasi had New 52 Clark um, build these statues of the Kents to go, side by side with the elves. That was such a powerful image. And for Clark to accept, all four of his parents. And then you had, which was, a very heartbreaking moment for Super Wonder fans. But for Diana, with knowing how, she truly appreciates culture and she honors Clark's, um, both sides of him. And she said, all of your parents are waiting for you. You know, she will not have him choose one over the other. Even though she calls him Cal, she calls him Cal as in everyone knows Clark. Well, they really don't, but you know, he hides who Cal is. And she brings that out of just knowing, you know, who he is, and just a reminder that he is different.
Mm-hmm.
And that was also in the image on the left was, well, it was in Clark's perspective, but it says that Diana is the one who helps him, who pushes him and helps him be the better, you know, of himself, that he can be all of himself. That when we say he doesn't hold back, we aren't talking about physically, as how these very disturbing fans are, you know, treating that statement as. Holding back means just being honest, you know, being trustworthy. And you don't have to tiptoe over anyone, and you don't have to have anyone at arm's length anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And then with Diana, it's just her connection of, you know, her loving life and her loving love. Again, we have to clarify love in a very positive and, you know, respectful way, and also, you know, in the way that truly, yeah, is respectful. Um, and being the free spirit that she is. That is their core. You know, Clark, he is a very respectful man. He is he is not corrupted by power. He actually purifies it in a way. And Diana, she is the pureness of living free and of living of love, you know.
Yeah. And that's the thing. That's the really important thing. And that's why what drew me to this pairing in the beginning, I say this all the time, it's that the idea that like you don't have to hide any part of yourself from her. And I don't mean physically. I have to keep saying that. What we mean is because ultimately with Lois or her with Steve, they're always going to hold some part of themselves back from those people. It's never going to be that they can completely be themselves. With these two, yeah, they can. That's it. That's what it is. I love how after they gave Lois powers, now people are like, can you make it permanent? Because now she can understand his world. And she was kind of just a damsel before. And I'm like, that's what we've been saying.
Exactly. Seeing how people are tweeting that now Lois can understand Clark's world as a superhero, and it's basically like, oh, so you want Lois to be Diana Light, basically. You know,
She
you
even
want,
looks like Diana in a super suit.
well, yeah, but she also, honestly, she looks like Kara in a black wig or brunette or something.
She looks
Or
like an
just
older Sasha Kaye is what you're telling me.
exactly. Yeah, she does. She really does. And the suit design makes it no better because with the collar and the shoulder pads and everything like that, it really does look like Sasha Kaye's costume. Um, but and honestly, she looks like a Supergirl. She doesn't look like you know, Superwoman or anything like that. And again, even that goes within to say that Lois having powers is her natural evolution, and how they can have more kids or something because some of the fans don't like John. Isn't that delving into eugenics? um, to say that if it's a natural evolution for Clark to be with someone with powers, okay, Diana, and it's natural for for her to have powers. But not only that, but you have Diana where her civilian occupation is being an ambassador. And Diana is basically the voice of the people. And Clark is he is the one as a reporter. Um, you know, it's kind of like honestly DC themselves and the fans are so wishy-washy because they made it seem like a human interest story is very below and it has no meaning. But then when they want to have Clark um say that he's only human or something like that, then they want to emphasize of how important human interest stories are. Well, with Diana, there's no wishy-washiness. A human interest story and telling, the people's story by word is what Clark as a reporter, you know, that is his purpose as the reporter. And Diana as the ambassador, as I said, she is the voice. And as the educator, she's supposed to teach people. And once you bridge that all together, again, you are bringing that peace and that um, enlightenment to the people. Uh, and with Lois, I just feel like the way Williamson is writing it, he's not emphasizing on them both being the reporters and truly making a difference. It's basically just, you know, Lois having these powers so we can just goof off. Maybe we'll do a couple of missions or whatever here and there, but that's not really um emphasized on. And again, that is really hypocritical because when Superman and Wonder Woman's book came out, it was people thinking that, oh, it's just going to be a romance book. It's just going to be them, you know, um, goofing off and they just want to be above humanity or something like that. But we saw in that book how Clark and Diana was was willing to make sacrifices, and all they wanted really at the end was to go clubbing, and Diana wanted to go um, eat a lot.
Hmm.
But overall, you see how they still struggled, through their relationship. It wasn't all um, rainbows and picnics or whatever that Tomasi wanted to say it was. It was them actually struggling as a real couple, and it didn't come easy for them like Lois and Clark, have it easy, and Lois being a Mary Sue with these powers, um, and then Diana with Steve. Well, he's dead, but in the afterlife, how he basically alluded to being with someone else, but he wasn't satisfied because he is so obsessed with Diana.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? It works because Diana was obsessed with Steve, so that does kind of they're obsessed together. Isn't that romantic, Brit?
No,
No,
it's
it's
not. It's
not.
very, very dysfunctional, and I hate it.
Yeah, exactly. That's the one good thing King did is he killed off Steve in the most like humiliating way possible. So I kind of enjoy that.
I mean,
But yeah, go ahead.
honestly, just getting popped by like an old man, that is very, very
And
embarrassing.
and Steve's supposed to be a Navy SEAL slash U.S. Marine slash Army Ranger slash I don't know what the hell branch this guy's in.
But you know, maybe King kind of like saw how people was making fun of the fact that, Steve died, and so he said that Steve actually is the one who gave Diana information before he died about the Sovereign, and I'm just kind of like,
That doesn't
everything.
help, because here's the problem with having all these crappy characters show up, and we'll talk about this when we review Wonder Woman 16. But every other character other than Wonder Woman take actions against and fight the villain that's supposed to be Wonder Woman's Joker.
I still don't understand how Sovereign is her Joker. And
That's what
honestly,
happens when a writer creates a character. They overly hype themselves. But in this case, it's like, then why isn't Wonder Woman fighting him?
right. I just don't understand how you can equate the Sovereign to the Joker. When you have Lex and then you have Veronica Cale, you know, those two match. But a Joker, I don't think you can really match a Joker. I really can't.
What he meant was like the villain that you think of when you think of Wonder Woman. No, no, no.
No
No
one
one's
can
gonna think. No
no
one
one's
is
gonna
gonna think
think
of the
of
Sovereign. That's kind of funny. I heard someone say that this is gonna be remembered as one of the best Wonder Woman runs. It's not gonna be remembered at all. It
no.
literally will not. It will probably be remembered about as well as Brian Michael Bendis on Superman. And trust
Right.
me, that ain't good.
Yeah, honestly, no one is going to remember.
In fact, if my campaign goes well, neither will Diana.
Exactly.
I'm just saying, we'll bring this up later, but I'm going to tease it right now. The fan base is in open revolt,
Yes.
which I am so proud of DC fans. So, speaking of DC, Creature Commandos. All right, so the first appearance of the Trinity is their impaled corpses. What?
Yeah.
Oh, the first appearance apparently of Wally West Flash is an impaled corpse.
Well, okay. So on the interview, the producer, okay, so the interviewer said Teen Titans Wally West Flash. So it's kind
Still.
of like, yeah, but then
But wait, are you talking about
it's
Wallace West Flash or Wally West? There's a difference.
I don't even think that the producer or the interviewer knows the difference.
Yeah,
Even though,
because like there's a big difference between the two.
yeah, I honestly think that they are thinking because Wally West, of course, was in the Titans, with Nightwing and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. But then you have Wallace West, who is obviously African American, but also he was in the Teen Titans. So it's
Based
very confusing
upon
on.
based upon the era of DC Comics that Gunn seems to be going off of, I'm pretty sure it's Wally the redhead.
It is Wally the redhead, but it's like, is he going to be in the Justice League Wally, or is he Teen Titans age of Nightwing Wally? That is the thing that the producer doesn't know. I mean, half the things he said he doesn't know is just put in, which then Gunn, of course, came and said that not everything is going to, you know, no, first he said that it wasn't a setup. Then he backtracked and said it was. Then he said, no, it
Oh, you mean
wasn't.
he
It
changed his
might.
mind?
Yeah. And then it, the producer or Gunn both said that it, what you see here and like the designs and everything like that is basically what we will get in live action.
So that's concerning because when I look at Wonder Woman, why are her boobs so big?
Because I believe the animation is actually an adult animation.
Yeah, but that doesn't make it any better.
And also, it's Gunn. And
Yeah.
I mean, to have her in a swimsuit too says a lot. So I'm very much concerned of who he will cast as Wonder Woman, and Diana, and with her being in the swimsuit, I would want the actress to be comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it feels like Gunn is, I don't know, it feels very superficial. It feels like he's trying to go, sure, you're trying to do comic accuracy, but in a way of pandering to fan bases or fanboys, you know, that really don't have the respect for these characters. They just want to have this visual, or they are wanting to just sexualize these characters, or just care about a ship, or you know, or something like that. But it's not the story itself.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the other thing is like, what are you talking about comic accuracy? Wonder Woman's in the armor in the comics right now, and
Yeah, you know,
doesn't look like that's going to change anytime soon.
with DC wanting to relaunch Batman and Superman next year,
I
I
honestly, at this point, do it, because if you relaunch Wonder Woman as well, again, hashtag, then at least King is off the book. We'll deal with whatever happens later.
yeah,
And if you relaunch from number one, you could just soft reboot all this stuff. Just get rid of it.
yeah. I don't know. I'm very much a wait and see, because it feels like just sugar honey iced tea being poured all over the place,
Oh, it
and
is.
it's nothing very cohesive.
Mm-hmm.
And if James Gunn is changing his mind every 5 minutes, you know, the thing is with how he's coordinated everything, or lack thereof, it just felt like, okay, you could have continued on with the DCEU. Like, you know, if Superman is going to basically be in the same spot he was in with the fast tracking the relationship with Lois, and you know, everything like that, and dealing with the world in the way that pretty much Cavill did, then yeah, you could have just kept the same character, well, the same actors and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but he is very much worried about just C-listers, Z-listers, than pushing and prioritizing your A-listers. And that was the one thing that MCU did, was you had the Avengers first, and then
And
you
here's the thing:
transition.
the Avengers were the C-listers. Here's why they went with them, though, because they didn't have access to their A-listers. They couldn't make X-Men, Fantastic Four, and like those other movies because they didn't have the movie rights. DC has access to their A-listers for movies.
Right. And they are not utilizing them. You you are again prioritizing these other characters, but people want a Justice League movie. You know, I would assume so. Um, they Wonder Woman, even though he canceled Wonder Woman 3,
Mm-hmm.
it was still like so fresh. Of the thing is, Wonder Woman 84, and that's the excuse that I see a lot, that 84 damaged Wonder Woman's brand. No, it really didn't, because Diana still had her popularity. What's damaging it is the fact that we have nothing for her. It's kind of
Yeah.
like you're
Not
that
even.
is what's
Remember when Gunn was saying he was working on getting an animated series for Wonder Woman? Why can't you just announce that?
yes, that is what's damaging, because that is, you know, basically fuel to the fire of thinking that, oh, she did fail, you know. But if he, because I would say that the timeline of the transition of Cavill and Cornsweat. Cavill was fired from WB, or the Superman role, in 2018, and they were looking, you know, kind of scouting or whatever, Corn Sweat in 2019. So that's a year apart. So they've been back and forth with these two since then. So you can't say that you have to wait 5 to 10 years for another Wonder Woman, to basically have people forget about Godot, or Godot, and then give another. No, that doesn't work that way. Um, and how Gunn made that decision to drop Cavill, and again, a year or two later, he's casting for a new Superman, and within 2 years or one or two, you have a new Superman. So no, I don't. That whole excuse that you have to wait or something like that, I don't believe. It's just the way he's prioritizing other characters.
All right, speaking of prioritizing other characters, I'm seeing a rumor that in the Paradise Lost show, DC is not interested in exploring Hippolyta's character. They're going to have Queen Nubia instead.
What?
Yeah, from what it's a rumor, but it says DC isn't interested in revisiting Hippolyta's character, and Queen Nubia will reportedly be used instead in Paradise Lost.
Where is this?
It's of an account called Gunverse.
Wait, that honestly, that site, or is kind of they take rumors and try to exploit it for their followers, for likes and stuff like that.
Okay, I
So
see.
unless it's something from even DCU Direct, or however you say, even that is a little iffy. There are some leakers and that are reliable, but yeah, if it's just from that, I will have to see the source.
Okay.
So you can send me that post or link, and I'll check it out. But that doesn't make sense because you have to have Hippolyta, and if Paradise Lost is also with inspired by Historia, that is Hippolyta's story. Olympia, Nubia, her story is it's not well defined. You know, I of course would love that representation as her being a black character, but she isn't defined though as taking lead in something like that, um or just having Nubia before you have Diana. I just that I don't see that happening. And honestly, that would really show how they're very much wanting to disrespect Diana um in her own world, not to
Yep,
have her first.
exactly. So, speaking of Superman, so the Superman trailer came out. Now, I enjoyed the trailer. My problem is, and yeah, Brit basically summarizes my problems with Kat and Guy Gardner's wigs looking stupid. And excuse me, it's all the same stuff pretty much that we already got, which refutes the whole Gunn is doing something completely different.
Honestly, no, it's nothing different. It's basically just a mixture of course, you have Donner, Superman Returns, and even Gunn. Gunn. He said that he's pulling from all different Superman medias. So yeah, he's doing like I said, Donner, Superman Returns, Man of Steel, Batman vs Superman, and Superman 4. Uh, I mean, how you can mix that all up in a big old pot of soup, I don't know if
Gunn
it's
will
going to.
try. Gunn will try. But yeah, the wigs on Kat and Guy just look horrible.
With him saying that the budget wasn't three 360. Um, I mean, I think that it was probably 200 million,
Mm-hmm.
maybe 150.
Mm-hmm.
um, just for them to have an easy profit because Superman is such a you can have Twitter, all day long. You can have social media um bigging up a lot of stuff, you know, but when it comes to actually supporting, and we see that with comics, yeah, you you might not get that actual support,
Yeah.
and especially with Superman. Superman has not been the character that the general audience truly cares for. Um, and the internet is not the whole world, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would say that Crypto is the only positive I have because he is adorable.
I love where he calls crypto, and all of a sudden you just see like a dust trail of snow just running at him.
Yeah, that is honestly Gunn. Gunn's saving grace for his films is always the adorable animals or
Mm-hmm.
that kind of thing. But even with creatures, creature commandos, he has Weasel, which is annoying because the the fact that Cersei's whole thing was just for her to be used for the vision. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but the fact that Gunn said that Weasel was able to have Cersei's hands, like, she, in order for Cersei to use her magic, she has to have her hands, which is so like, it's kind of like, did you not watch your own show or read back what you wrote? Because Cersei didn't use her hands a lot of times and she still used her magic. And she also
Mm-hmm.
has telekinesis. So yeah,
Uh,
that is just,
Onto that, here's the problem with that explanation, Brit. So he said because Weasel was moving at superhuman speed. I'm sorry, the animation did not communicate that at all. He looked like he
it
was
didn't
moving at random speed, at normal speed.
speed. And so are we going to believe that Weasel can beat Diana?
Yeah, well, he can because Gunn clearly wants his original his characters to be able to beat anyone.
Oh, that is just awful.
That's
Um,
why.
I would say Corn Sweat, he gives Donner's, Clark Kent, okay, so this is this movie is based on All-Star Superman still.
Yeah, 100%.
That's pretty much what it is. And the bumbling idiot, I really do not like.
Mm-hmm.
I, it doesn't seem like it's going to be
Plus, that's not
annoying.
even Clark anymore, though.
Yeah, it's just kind of like, can we just let him be normal? Just let
Mm-hmm.
him be. It's just not a thing that you have to have. It's very much, this movie feels very much like it's harkening back to the 90s or early 2000s than it being a 2024, 2025 movie,
Yeah.
you know? Um, and then uh, his Superman, he looks good. The suit still
Mm.
looks very much plasticky.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's all right. It's okay. Um, the Middle East plot.
That gun told you. That gun told us was not real. By the way, ha 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 ha.
So he rewrote it or something like that, but it's supposed to be something about like of course these leaders and taking over. You have Grodd also.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously the vision in Creature Commandos, it is setting up something. Um, yeah, you're very much edging into that idea of Superman as a white savior that can be very offensive. So no, you do not.
Particularly, here's the thing, particularly in a world where we're dealing with a current thing in the Middle East, maybe this isn't the best time to do that.
Exactly. Um, Lex, he's bald. I mean, he looks like a character from Mission Impossible.
Well,
I guess that
he
could be,
looks like the Hitman.
yes, or something like that. I guess that works. Yeah, Guy and Cat's wigs were very ugly. Like, no. And Clois being the default as usual, it's just it is what it is. It's Lois really doesn't have a role besides being the checkbox love interest. And that mid-air scene was, you can tell that they were on wires and it looks so awkward. Um, of course the fans are gonna gas it up as something very romantic, but yeah, it looks very awkward and it doesn't really convey a romance at all to me. It just looks very generic as usual.
Mm-hmm.
It's nothing new here actually. It's the same plots that we've seen for Superman. So
Even with the Snyderverse.
yeah, so I don't know. It's all right because of what it is as Superman. And like I said, the only saving grace for me with this is Crypto. Because he is an adorable little dog.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the everything else is kind of like is going to be just the basic generic Superman, and
Mm-hmm.
that the fact that the character is so basic and can't really explore, of 80 years, you have the same plots, you have the same setup. It's kind of, that's kind of sad. Um, but yeah, we will see how this is going to go, and unfortunately, the whole DCU, it falls on this movie. So it's kind of like for me, you know how I feel about this movie. I basically wanted to, not so much as flop, but yeah. But at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, if everything hinges on it and we want to see Diana again, then this movie has to have at least some success, which I don't think that's fair.
Mm-mm. It's not. It shouldn't be required. We shouldn't have. Well, first off, Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman should be the first people to get movies. There shouldn't be a Creature Commandos animated series. There shouldn't be Authority before there's Wonder Woman.
Even Supergirl, I just,
Mm-hmm.
with them saying that, well, it was already written and stuff like that, I don't care. I really don't care. Wonder
Yeah,
Woman still, you should have had someone dedicated to writing
you
a
should have
Wonder Woman.
prioritized it.
Yeah, you can prioritize it. You saying that it was written first, I don't care. Wonder Woman should be priority. And then with the Batman situation of them kind of still going back and forth with if they want Patterson to be the DCU Batman.
And the rumor is that if they want that, Reeve is very. I mean Reeve. Yeah, Reeve. Reeve is very resistant to that, to the point where if they try and force that, yeah, Reeve will walk.
Because I mean, they are giving him more control, and it feels like, I think that what they want to agree on is if he does agree that Patterson becomes DCU Batman, then he has control of the Batverse. So he can, he still has his thing going on, which honestly, that's fine. You know, um, Batman doesn't necessarily need to be within the Justice League.
Yeah, he
Like,
does.
I mean, he does, but doesn't. He still plays that role of the loner, and you know, it just it depends on the Justice League movie, you know, and if
It
it's
also depends on the lineup of the Justice League.
exactly, and from the books that were sort of mentioned for DCU, New Frontier was one of them, which is a Justice League. However, that's a little difficult too because Hal Jordan was, you know, very important within that.
Yeah.
But if you want that sort of plot line and everything like that, Batman, he was in it, but it still it wasn't he wasn't very important, you know. So he can be 1 foot out the door type thing within the Justice League, especially because he has the focus of the Bat family. But yeah, it's just a lot of it's too many cooks in the kitchen or not enough. I don't know how this is going, but it just doesn't seem like there's a plan. There's a true plan for the DCU. It's
Oh, there
just
isn't.
it's just very much just throwing stuff to the wall and see if it sticks. Uh,
Yeah, go ahead.
oh yeah, that was it.
Oh, speaking of throwing stuff to the wall and seeing what sticks, Wonder Woman 16. That was a perfect transition. So here's the thing. So as you guys know, I've been wondering, okay, so he could use Cersei, and that'll be interesting if Cersei's the last villain he uses. No, Cersei gets arrested and thrown in jail by a monkey.
And not only that, but she get tortured for months because she wouldn't talk about Sovereign until the Spectre actually tortures her until she actually speaks. So that's very weird and honestly unnecessary.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you also have Diana Barrett. She's only in like 5 pages of her own book.
Exactly. Here's my issue. All the characters that Tom King wants to write are the ones that directly fight the Sovereign.
Right, and that really says a lot. Um, and then you have the backup. Why is Jimmy Olsen in a Wonder Woman book as a
And
backup?
why would Sovereign tell Jimmy Olsen and Clark Kent the entire story? Why would he tell a reporter the whole story that's supposed to be secret?
Yeah, it. This is such an idiotic story. I don't know how you can justify it. It's very much Tom King trying to make his plot work at the expense of the characters, then making the plot work for the characters, and especially for Diana, because she did not speak really in her own book, and the way he characterized Hippolyta so easily to accept Trinity and the whole grandma is well, she's too young to be a grandma. Well, first of all, yeah, Trinity doesn't supposed to exist anyway.
Well,
And
and then also where the first thing Balta talks about is, well, where's the father?
right, and then okay, honestly, how would Hippolyta like the true Hippolyta will not stand for Diana ruining her mission or her purpose for a child um, that she just created on a whim. And the fact that the child's existence is only for a man. That is not Hippolyta. She will not easily accept that. Um, and we have yet to see other Amazons. Like, I guess Diana was on Themyscira. Where are the Amazons?
Yeah, I know, right? Isn't that funny?
She's just alone. And uh with Trinity, you know,
Where were the Amazons that threatened to kill that cancer patient that she brought there?
yeah, they were nowhere to, it was only for the plot at the expense of the
Oh,
character.
watch. This is what King will do. He will retcon it that when the Sovereign sent Diana back, in other words, just deposit her on the island, and she went to Themyscira, he will retcon it and try and make it that Diana killed all the Amazons.
Oh my God.
Tell me that's not something King would do.
He would.
He would, trust me.
I can't even defend that. I can't even give him the benefit of the doubt because Tom King, it feels like he is set out to ruin characters and he will do something that
That's
extreme
why
for
it was kind of
attention.
funny. I told this about someone. Someone said during the campaign, someone said, "Oh, you're all just haters," and I'm like, "Wait until he destroys your favorite character. Inevitably, it will happen."
Right, right. It's on this story, the storyline, the characterization is just complete. It's very much an embarrassment.
And what's kind of funny? Someone said they should just rebirth this and like retcon it out. And okay, Brit, you and I don't like Wonder Woman Rebirth. Yeah, do that.
Yeah.
If that gets rid of this entire 20 issues of Wonder Woman, yes, do it.
Yes. Go ahead. Do it. Because it's
at this point, I will take you can even call it Wonder. That's what I would do, Brit. If I were writing from 20 and on, I would call it my first arc. It's called Wonder Woman Rebirth. We're retconning out the entire King run. Fight me, bozo! I have an entire army of fans backing me up.
Yeah, that is true.
No, you know what I would do? I would make it where it's just Diana waking up from a nightmare and saying, I remember there was this weird kid made out of clay and Steve died. Apparently that's still real. Yes, that's the one thing I would keep. And there was this old man that apparently had been king of America. And then obviously Diana's at the fort at the Hall of Justice telling the story. And then Clark goes, "Don't worry, it was just a horrible dream."
Yeah, they can definitely have this as a nightmare.
Oh, and then I would say, oh, trust me, no one wants a king of America.
You know, that is so funny how, like, no one else is actually dealing with this. Like, the separate books.
Everyone is ignoring the sovereign. Isn't that hilarious?
And honestly, everyone is ignoring everyone else's story, which it just feels like DC is separated more than ever. Like the characters don't have that connection, that dynamic. Even with Batman and Superman, they keep trying to have them as the world's finest, as these bros and everything like that. But it still feels very much disconnected. You know, you don't have this genuine type feel with these characters. It's only how and some fans like that these characters are in their own worlds, and they say that, which is very bizarro type thinking. It's very backwards to say that if you have them in a shared universe, then the story is limited. But then if you have them by themselves, the story, I guess, expands. I don't know. But that just doesn't make sense to me. Because if you are having these characters interact in different type ways, that's expanding the story. So it just feels like DC, again, is catering to this certain fan base or whatever that's threatened, for a different dynamic or something like that. And you are limiting the storytelling. And it's hurting the characters.
Exactly. And it gets to the point where, again, I wanted to like this run. That's the thing. Because here's the thing. Here's why I keep seeing people ask me, why would DC put Tom King on Wonder Woman? Here's why. Like it or not, Tom King is a well-known writer. He has like a name. And they probably thought, somehow DC thought, that Tom King would give Wonder Woman a little sachet. And it arguably had the opposite effect. This is the comics version of Wonder Woman 1984, Brit.
Yeah.
Actually, no, Brit. Literally, this is Wonder Woman 1984.
Well, he did say that he was which again is kind of like, okay, this is
Which,
going
first
too
off,
far.
if you're writing this according to Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman, that is an insult to Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman, because even she was not as emotionally stiff as Unwonderful Woman.
I mean, I guess she was doing things in the shadows, but she's still, it kind of obsessing over the same man for 60 years. At least she didn't create a baby
Yeah,
out
which
of,
they could eat. That's why I love the Clay origin. Because if it were the biological kid of Steve and Diana, it would be much harder to retcon out. Because they could just use magic. Okay, the baby's gone. That's it. You're
honestly,
done. Or make it
well,
where it was a. Here's my idea, Brit. It was a construct created by Cersei to break Diana.
I mean, that would make more sense. That would honestly make more sense.
That's the first thing I would do. That's the other first thing I would do. I would make it where the baby is like where Diana thought she was forging the baby, but that was actually Cersei acting through her. And then I would say, and if DC editorial throws a fit, I'm like, the fan base rejected Trinity at this point. So you know what? If they're going to reject her, let me at least give her a story-wise logical send-off.
I mean, honestly, Cersei manipulating things, using her magic, whatever, is the go-to.
Because if anyone is Wonder Woman's Joker, Cersei has an argument for that.
Right. I mean, you would
Why didn't you just use Cersei? And I would make it where the Sovereign was, in fact, a construct of Cersei. The whole thing is a construct of Cersei. And then when Diana locks up Cersei and maybe like it knocks her out, the whole thing goes away.
That.
Except for Steve dying, because the construct still killed Steve. Hey, that wasn't magic killing Steve. That was a 9mm round, Brit.
That makes sense. Yeah, he got popped by an old man. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. By speaking, okay, so now let's talk about it. So, okay, here's what happened. So, I'm sure you guys have known from like the past like an hour and 45 that we don't like Tom King's Wonder Woman. And the thing is, at a certain point, I kept going, when is this gonna end? When is this gonna end? So when Sam Pear posted the cover for Wonder Woman 19, which is gonna be the end of the Sovereign story, and then he was promoting it as like, oh yeah, we have so many more stories in store. I was like, at that point, I started thinking, I'm like, okay, this could either be really good or really bad. Then I remembered that's exactly what I said when King was coming on Wonder Woman, and look how that turned out. So ultimately, I was like, okay, you know what? At this point, we got to get rid of this. So I thought, what's a way to, how do we get him off the run? And then I remembered DC, Brit and I always complain, DC pays way too much attention to Twitter and Twitter outrage. So I took an inspiration from my friends in the Snyderverse community okay, let's make a hashtag. So I made two hashtags, hashtag KingOffWonderWoman and hashtag RetconTrinity. By retcon, I mean out of continuity. Get rid of her. So I made a little Photoshop thing, which I must say is one of my finest works, and posted it to Twitter, shared it. I shared this at 9 a.m. Brit, do you want to describe to the audience what transpired?
The floodgates of just
It's still going.
Of everyone's opinions and their rage. It's kind of like you gave them that open door to release their hatred, I would say, might as well, of and frustration. I would much rather say frustration of Tom King's run.
Yeah.
And how they.
Here's another tweet, Britt. So someone said, okay, so we're like 16 issues in. Where is Etta? And I said, yes. Where is Etta? Where is Julia? Where is Vanessa? And someone said the fact that he made it so Vanessa was romantically in love with Diana is so weird. I'm like, yeah, because that's never happened.
And
ever.
that is her. that is basically her adoptive sister. Like that is
That's Bruce Timm levels of creepy. You know I had to. It's gotten to
yeah,
the point where you could search the hashtag. That is the thing. Nowhere in my wildest dreams did I think this was gonna explode the way it did on multi-platforms.
yeah,
This is to the point where if this keeps going, because it's been going on for 2 days, I'm going to tweet this every single day until his run ends. And I'm committing to this because here's why. Wonder Woman deserves a good writer that wants to write for her. King was very open that he did not want to write Wonder Woman. So I'm like, if he didn't want to write her, why are you on the book?
yeah,
I'm making it my personal mission that he does not get to 100 issues, that he does not even get to 50 issues. That's it. At this point, because I know previously I was like, okay, you know what? I'll give him another arc to see if maybe it was like the Solomon story. Nope, we're done. We are done. Now, the bottom thing, this is what Brit showed me. It got to the point where one of the biggest Wonder Woman fan accounts in Brazil posted that Wonder Woman fans have started spreading a hashtag that Tom King stop writing this book and that Lizzie Prince undergo a reboot. Literally every comment after that was these hashtags, and
yes,
no, we mean kill Trinity.
yes,
I am. It's gotten to the point where I am fairly certain that what's gonna happen is I guarantee you that what's gonna happen is he better not announce he better not like share anything from the upcoming books, even art, because guess what's gonna happen? The comments are gonna be King off Wonder Woman, RetconTrinity. People are tagging Jim Lee, Marie Javins, DC, and they're like King off Trinity, King off Trinity, King off Trinity. It has taken on a mind of its own at this point in the best way possible.
yes. That is, I mean, this is the way you do, positivity for for the character. It's like you said, yeah, there are some comments that are a little overboard, with their frustration. However, this is a positive push for Wonder Woman to have respect. And what I keep saying, and what I'm going to continue to say, is that we've dealt with a lot of toxic antis, the hypocrisy, the double standards, the degradation, the judgments, um, the harassment, the death threats, and everything like that. But we still love these characters. We love Wonder Woman. We understand what she represents and understand as a female character, the most prominent female character of superheroes, she deserves respect. And that is what we talk about every episode and in the purpose of this show. It's not just for Superman and Wonder Woman as a ship. It is for Wonder Woman really to have, voices who truly care for her. And what I told you, Jared, is that your platform is so welcoming with all fans. And for us to deal with that judgment of, oh, a Super Wonder fan doesn't have an opinion, or we disrespect Diana, or, things like that. But you, as a Super Wonder fan, created this domino effect. You opened the floodgate to fight for Wonder Woman's respect.
By not only a Super Wonder fan that's also enjoys the works of Zack Snyder.
Yes. And that says a lot. That truly solidifies and it emphasizes that we aren't just shippers. We actually care for these characters. And as I said before we started recording, we are, I would say, well, for me, and I am a Wonder Woman fan before a Superman fan.
Hey, it's kind of
And
funny. Britt and I were talking about this. We do much more content about Wonder Woman than we do Superman.
exactly. And it's again because we understand her character and we see her potential. She deserves to have the respect. And and she is the true queen and first lady of DC. So she she deserves that and to be treated as such. And we saw that potential within DCEU of how Wonder Woman can be successful. And young girls want to have that representation. So yes, we are going to keep pushing for this hashtag, pushing for Wonder Woman to finally get that respect, to finally get that writer who can, I wouldn't say so much as embody Perez or on that same level, but at least strive to be. That at least have
Or
that same.
Britt, not even that. Who wants to write for her?
Yeah, that's what I was going to get to. Something like that. They actually just have that respect for Wonder Woman as an individual character. It's not her supporting cast or anything like that either. Because when you care more about the supporting cast, your main character still suffers. And that is what Superman suffers from. So no, we don't we want her supporting cast to have you know, to have respect and to be a part of her. But at the same time, you have to understand that Diana is the main character and it's her story. It's not her revolving around every other character. So that is what this hashtag and that is what this movement is about is Diana as an individual getting respect and getting
Now, yeah, actually, yeah, go ahead.
uh, and just getting a writer, a creative team that truly can embody and her purpose as an inspiration.
Now, there are 3 rules of this hashtag. Use the hashtags are King off Wonder Woman. They're on screen right now, and hashtag RetconTrinity. We're gonna start with those. Tag DC. Do not tag King's editor. I don't want her getting harassed. Do not, under any circumstances, do that. You can comment under whenever King promotes like his upcoming issues. Do flood the hashtag. Do that. Do not attack his editor.
Yes.
I'm just telling you that right now.
I mean, because honestly, the way these editors are, it feels like, especially with King, because he's gotten an editor fired. So it feels like he's throwing a lot of weight around, especially the fact that his involvement with the DCU and James Gunn. So it's definitely going to be some power struggle there. So I would say that even with her being the editor, I feel like she's in that position where it feels like King has the control, but the fans can take that control from him and show that they aren't supporting this book that obviously they don't like. Yes, it is a catch-22 double-edged sword because you want to show your support for Diana, so it's kind of like you have to bite the bullet and support the book because you want her to continue to have, books and things like that. That's the stipulation and the unfairness that DC sort of holds. But at the same time, if you don't support this book and it falls, just like the Batman book, then Tom King will be kicked off. And that he basically admitted that too, that his Batman run was falling short of sales, so he was kicked off. So that is what needs to happen with Wonder Woman.
Keep this going. Keep this going. Do not let DC be able to promote anything with his Wonder Woman without seeing this hashtag. Because if this trends and we get like big news sources to cover it, like Bleeding Cool and all that stuff, then they will not be able to ignore it. It's already getting to the point where they won't be able to ignore it. But I'm saying those are our tactics. If we make it so DC cannot ignore it, we don't even have to wait for the sales to drop, because the sales are dropping. They are going downhill real fast. But if we make it so they cannot ignore it, because it could be that they'll be like, let's wait and see if maybe it's just a comic market. And then if this happens and Absolute Wonder Woman explodes as well, or stays doing way better, guess what's going to happen? Because if Absolute Wonder Woman sells, I'm not saying make Wonder Woman like Absolute Wonder Woman. I'm saying it shows DC that it's the crappy writer and not the character or IP. It is the writer.
Yeah, I see. Yeah.
That is what we're doing. Because Wonder Woman should not be the book that everyone jokes about. Wonder Woman should not have a book where her line is, I ate my rat.
Or it's the fact that she's banned from the US. Her sisters were imprisoned and killed.
And she's on the Justice League?
And she's still on the Justice League. Which, again, the whole disconnect, because Diana's on the Justice League. And this is like 52. Okay, so Absolute Power and how these books relaunched is 52 days after that event. But now they're saying that months has passed or whatever. So it's kind of like, okay, so what, 6 months or so that I don't know. They don't know their own timeline. But how is Diana just so ingrained within the Justice League, but she has Trinity? That doesn't make sense. Of course, Steve's death doesn't matter to anyone. Yeah, it nothing aligns correctly.
And literally, I don't make absolute statements normally. I'm going to make one right now because this is true. No one likes Trinity. Literally, no one.
Right. And going back to that, with Diana being a fugitive, why is she continuously holding an American flag?
That's the other thing. First off, American flag touches the floor. According to U.S. flag code / tradition, that never touches the floor. That's the first thing. Second off, what is Wonder Woman's attachment to the American flag? You've never established that.
It's only because of Steve, and that's it.
Or how about the most recent cover, Brit, where she's holding the American flag?
Yeah.
Look, it's right there, as a matter of fact.
Yeah. And it's kind of like, if that is what Diana represents, or to her, what America represents is just Steve. Again, that's going into basically our whole conversation for tonight, which is the writers keep trying to emphasize on Lois and Steve, and you at the expense of Clark and Diana. Again, you made this a point where Diana is a fugitive of the U.S. government military. And the same, honestly, Steve did nothing, though. He did not fight for Diana's sisters.
If anything, he was on the side of the military. Remember when they were doing that face-off and Wonder Woman killed U.S. soldiers?
Yeah. Everything like that. Steve did not do anything to help Diana at all. It's only within this time where, oh, yeah, Steve was doing something, doing things behind the scenes, but you never actually see it. It's just thrown in there. Just like how he said that Diana and Steve, or Diana and Wonder Woman. I mean, Diana and Steve and Wonder Woman are supposed to be together. And it is what it is. It's kind of like, no, you're not forcing this within, the characters and using the characters as a mouthpiece. No, that's not how your story is going to be accepted by the fans. We are yeah, most of us are very competent to understand that what Tom King is doing, and again, he has admitted this, that he says that Wonder Woman is a challenge. And if it's a challenge to him, that means that he doesn't understand and that he can't write the story.
So in other words, Brit, he's lazy.
Lazy, but also he just doesn't understand the character. And
Then
if
don't
you
write her.
exactly, well, he isn't writing her, Jared,
Well,
because she's
he's writing
barely in her own book.
Unwonderful Woman. That's
That
true.
and she's only 5 pages within her own book. So,
Hmm.
so yeah, just to round off this conversation, you know, we see Clark and Diana's potential within almost 90 years now. These characters feel stagnant though. You aren't expanding their worlds with doing the same thing over and over and basically minimizing what makes them unique. And what makes them unique is understanding that Clark is still an alien from another
Exactly.
planet and he's a refugee that was raised by humans still way before Lois. And he bridges being from Kansas and from Krypton, and make that um, both legacies, are respected. And it helps him, to be Superman, who he is supposed to be.
Hmm.
Um, and again, it is a Moses allegory, not space Jesus, not a white savior or anything like that. He is the champion of the oppressed, the champion of the people, or the man of the people. And Diana being this mythical being, but at the same time, she's very literally grounded within the earth, with her clay origin. She is the embodiment of purity, and you know the and because of her love of culture and the fact that honestly with what Perez wanted to do and he did is have the Amazons multicultural. So honestly, if Vera often say if Diana is to be cast in DCU, I would honestly want Diana to, you know, have that racial ambiguity. You
You know they
know,
won't though, Brit.
they won't because they're very much uncultured and they just don't have that idea of the character. But for me, if we were in the perfect world or so, that Diana would represent that of you know who she actually is. Um, but yeah, she is supposed to bring peace and bring all cultures together. That is what makes these characters relatable, and that is their links to humanity is their love for the world, culture, and life, and just all around love.
Exactly. So before we move on to our last topic of the night, I wanted to bring up something. This is a funny tweet that someone put. This Sovereign is the worst comic book villain ever created. It's so annoying that he narrates anything all the time. In my head, he's the avatar of Tom King himself, tormenting Diana and her fans.
Oh my God, yeah, that is true because the Sovereign is bald and Tom King is bald,
And Tom King did say that occasionally he likes to put references to himself and other character and
and
the artists in there.
I mean, and the fact that the Sovereign is he is a depressed and he's depressed. He thinks he's the king of America, so and Tom King thinks he's well, his last name is King. So and he does represent America. So yeah, the Sovereign is Tom King.
It sure would make sense. So, anyway, speaking of contrived, Superman 21. All right. So, this is again more of it's a preview, but it's it's more about again, date night. It's more about them just showing off her powers.
Yeah, and the fact that the first page has Lois and Kara um fighting whatever, and Lois trying to tell Kara what to do, and
Hmm.
for her to say call Batman, it's like, Lois, um how are you trying to tell Kara what to do? You know,
I know.
she's had the powers since she, was born and everything. She's been a superhero for, I guess, within this continuity, Kara is 21, I believe. So, that she's just so she's such a Mary Sue, and
Really?
and just the way that um it really feels like they want Lois to be Diana, and they want that
They
sort of,
do.
they want that power couple feel that Superman and Wonder Woman's book gave.
Hmm.
But you can't do that because they're not teaching each other anything. They're not doing it. This is very much fluff, and also again with
It also looks like by there at this dialogue where she goes, "Hold my cape, Smallville. Don't forget to account for the changing gravity." Ugh, I know. She sounds honestly. This sounds kind of woke.
I
In that she automatically knows how to do all this stuff, and she's showing up Clark.
yeah, it is. I would say that woke has turned into something bad that it wasn't that way before. What woke meant to be is awareness, obviously,
Hmm.
and for social, reasonings. Um, but the way that it's now defined is it's not used correctly, and it's derogatory. Or yeah, it's that. And what Lois represents, it's not feminist because she has been changed to fit Clark. That honestly, this isn't a flex of a story. It's not an evolution of her character because if Lois is such a great character as a mortal, powerless reporter, and she is supposed to show that she is an equal as powerless. Yeah, that whole thing is thrown out the window. And the way that these fans are talking, you are, those fans are putting themselves in that eugenics type talk. And again, they talk in a very um disrespectful way of a female character, and
Hmm.
how they sexualize Lois. And again, it's honestly weird that they sexualize her when, again, when the first um cover showed, they thought that she was a daughter. So it's like, that's a little bit, a lot of weirdness going on with the fact of Lois having powers.
What
And
the
again,
Bruce Tim?
and just again, she looks like Sasha Kaye. She looks like just an ordinary Supergirl, and just that whole matching
Oh,
or
the
whatever.
fact that she doesn't get her own superhero identity, that she has to be Superwoman.
Right. Just that whole thing is very much eugenics, and her having to conform for Clark, and for her to understand him after they've been married for so long, and this emphasis on their relationship. Now she's trying to understand him. And it's not even a story about them understanding each other either. It's about her just having these powers because um, Williamson honestly didn't know what else to do with her. Even with her, the one shot special. it really did not give a reason as to why Lois has powers. And um, there was one part of the dialogue where Lois says, "Now that I have powers, I can help people." It's like, oh, so as a reporter, you wasn't helping people?
True.
Even here, it's like with Clark saying, "Now that you have powers, you know, we can like do stuff." It's like, okay, so basically you're saying that it's limited. This is not showing this relationship in a positive way. You're only glossing it over with Dan Moore's art, or if, you know, with Williamson doing a lot of fluff and stuff. But you're not actually giving a story that's um, truly challenging and showing the depth of their relationship.
Yeah.
No, you're not doing anything like that. So to compare this with Charles Sewell book, no, this um with Lois, whether she's powerless or have power, she does not come close to Diana. And the relationship of Clark and Diana is honestly within the present time is just so much more relevant and so much you know has so much depth and just this connection more than Superman with Lois.
Exactly. And it's the more I see this, the more I'm like, come on, Doomsday. You were created for one purpose.
Right.
Do it. You even have Ozempic Doomsday. I'm sure he could do it.
Yeah. Even Ozempic. And honestly, this is definitely giving a been there, done that type thing, because honestly, Diana would be there with Clark in the fact that she's dealt with Doomsday, and it's like you're rehashing the same stories. It is very tired.
Yeah, exactly. Well, DC repeating the same stories over and over again. That's never happened before. No. You can't tell me they've done the same thing over and over and over and over and over again and expected a different result. If only there was a word for that, Brit. It starts with an I. Insanity!
Right.
That's what the word is! Almost, it's... Oh my god. It's at this point... Let me put it this way. With the Superman book, yes, I'm reading it because it's interesting and I love Dan Moore's art. But yeah, every time I see this, I think of mess contrived over there, and it's the wonder why I call her lame, because this whole story is also lame. Although I forgot, her name is actually not Superwoman. I will from now on be calling her Zois because she got her powers from General Zod. That's it. She is
Right.
Zois. She is from now on Zois. Thank you, Joshua, for Williamson, for giving me a name for your superhero.
That is funny.
Yes, it is. It is. So, in conclusion, remember, we're trying to maintain positivity. And in terms of the hashtag, follow these rules, and 100%, we can get to this. Is an achievable goal based on DC's past attitudes and the amount of momentum this hashtag has. However, do not harass people, because if you harass people, that makes us look bad.
Yes, and that just the purpose of it just goes away.
Yeah. So really, ultimately, just be positive. Put it in the promos for Wonder Woman. Put both hashtags in promos for Wonder Woman from DC and Tom King. Do not do anything else.
Right.
Are we good? Okay, we're good. Brit, yeah, do you have any stories you want to tease us with before we wrap up?
Okay. Well, first, which is it's kind of ironic that we are having this conversation and I end up with a Instagram comment. So the comment says, and I sent it to the Trinity chat. So the comment says, wouldn't Superman get canceled for dating Wonder Woman? I mean, he's all about truth, justice, and the American way. And she's the ambassador of a gender-based apartheid state,
Apartheid.
apartheid state named the Mascara. Again, that really we just answered that. No, he would not be canceled unless it is very much the rebirth uh, you know, crowd that wants him to be Americanized in the negative way of the xenophobia and the racist, xenophobic and racist type way. But as who they are to each other as individuals and the bond that they have, I just don't understand how anyone could think that Clark and Diana being together causes problems or is a way of being canceled, quote unquote. But yeah, this is the what I was saying about the type of comments and that we get of this ship, because a lot of people, first of all, they don't read, they don't want to comprehend, and they don't want to think beyond of who Clark and Diana are. And that's why we talk for almost 3 hours drilling that of who they are in the first place.
Yeah.
But on a positive note, so with the Superman trailer and just the holidays and everything and everyone in the spirit, the the Instagram page has a lot of activity going on, and the page has reached over 1 million views. It's at
Hey.
1.1, and that says a lot that this ship is still very much thriving, and it's all about the positivity. Um, and fans should not feel as if they have to become sheep for the traditional status quo, and they don't have to feel like they can't speak on what they care for, because you have fans who just cannot accept that other people like other things. Um, but I truly appreciate the support, and we will keep going. And yeah, we are here for the fans.
Exactly.
With
No matter what fan you are.
right, and with the with stories, we are closer to revealing what the Shelterverse is. The stories that we have
Oh my
within
gosh. Brit,
it.
Grok knows what the hashtag is now. For fun, I said, describe the King Off Wonder Woman hashtag. And this is what it said. The King Off Wonder Woman hashtag is part of a campaign from comic book fans and critics expressing their dissatisfaction with writer Tom King's handling of the Wonder Woman character in DC Comics. Posts on X reveal sentiments where users are critical of King's interpretation, often describing it as disrespectful of Wonder Woman's lore or overly focused on certain themes or narratives that they disagree with. The hashtag is paired with others like RetconTrinity and hashtag KingOffDCU, indicating a broader call for changes in how DC Comics manages its characters, particularly in relation to King's work. The use of this hashtag suggests a movement within the fan base to either see a change in creative direction for Wonder Woman or to have King removed from writing her stories.
Wow.
We're famous. AIs know us now.
Well, that is...
And we're just on day 2.
That is wonderful. That really shows, again, when you have a more positive, campaign, of what this is, to just fighting for respect for the, like I said, the queen and the first lady of DC. And yes, Diana is not Lois.
Exactly. Now, before we wrap up, there's something I want to say for this because I have you guys to thank for this, and you, Brit, because here's the thing. I became significantly more of a fan of Wonder Woman because of this show, because I didn't know all this stuff and stuff. And it's because of this show that I fell in love with the character and was inspired to start this campaign. So if this is successful, it's because of you guys watching and that are using the hashtag. And Brit, it's because of you.
Oh,
That is why it is.
It's just a revolving of support, and we love it.
It is astounding. So anyway, stay heroic, everyone. Remember, Lois Lane is Lois Lane, and Steve Trevor is Steve Never. She belongs to General Zod. Zoe is the Max about for life. We'll see you later. Bye.